But first at 5, we're crunching the numbers from the latest settlement reached in the 38 Studios saga. The settlement with two of the biggest banks involved in the failed deal was first breaking on Eyewitness News at noon.
And it's also the largest so far in the state's effort to recoup the millions taxpayers are on the hook for, which is more than $89 million, including the interest on the $75 million loan guarantee. We have team coverage for you tonight. WPRI.com reporter Ted Nesi goes in depth on where all the legal cases stand.
But first, let's go to Eyewitness News reporter Steph Machado with the details of the deal and reaction to the settlement.
The governor is calling this a huge step in the right direction for taxpayers trying to recoup money from the failed 38 Studios deal, but there's still a ways to go. Wells Fargo and Barclays will hand over $25.6 million to the state of Rhode Island if the settlement filed today is approved. In return, the lawsuit against them is dropped, and they admit no fault in the failed video game company deal. Judge Francis Darrigan mediated the negotiation.
The state was not entirely satisfied with the amount agreed upon, nor was the defendants. And that, ladies and gentlemen, in my 32 years of experience, is the hallmark of a very good mediation, where nobody walks out of here smiling.
In all, the state owes $89 million to bondholders after the failed deal. The settlements in the lawsuit, including today's, total $42 million, which after legal fees nets $34 million. So the settlements cover almost 40% of taxpayer money owed.
That this really and truly is a hard won victory for all of the parties, and particularly for the taxpayers of the state of Rhode Island.
The state could recover the rest of the money after October's scheduled jury trial with the other defendants, including Curt Schilling. But Judge Darrigan says he thinks most of those parties will settle within the next week or two. He said it's a stretch to say the state will recoup all the money it put into the 38 Studios deal.
I don't want to mislead anybody to think that the state is going to recover every nickel, because I don't know that that's going to happen.
And Curt Schilling is still indicating he wants to go to trial to tell the, quote, real story. He said that on Twitter today. He also said in response to a Providence Journal question, also on Twitter, about today's settlement, good for them. Coming up new at 6, the judge weighs in on the costs of going to trial in this case. Reporting live with the Providence Mobile Newsroom, I'm Steph Machado, Eyewitness News.
In the 4 years since Curt Schilling's company collapsed, multiple legal cases have been filed to address what went wrong.
WPRI.com reporter Ted Nesi has been tracking 38 Studios from the start. He continues our in-depth coverage with a breakdown of where things stand.
The 38 Studios mess has spun off in so many directions since the state borrowed $75 million to woo Curt Schilling's company. It can be hard to keep track. Here's a breakdown. First, there's the piece that's made the most headlines, the civil lawsuit filed in 2012 by then-Governor Lincoln Chafee against 14 defendants who helped put together the 38 Studios deal. So far, 8 of them have agreed to pay the state to settle out of court, including the settlement announced Tuesday with Wells Fargo and Barclays. All told, that's yielded about $34 million for taxpayers to put toward the nearly $90 million owed on the 38 Studios loan. The remaining 6 defendants, including Curt Schilling, go to trial in October unless they settle too. Then there's a new case brought just this past March by the U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission, which filed civil charges against Wells Fargo and the state of Rhode Island for allegedly defrauding investors over 38 Studios. That case is moving forward in federal court. On top of that, there's the 4-year criminal investigation into 38 Studios led by Rhode Island State Police. Attorney General Peter Kilmartin announced last month no charges will be filed in that case, but it remains open in the event something new emerges. Kilmartin has so far resisted public pressure to release documents gathered for that probe, which could shed more light on the failed deal. Finally, there's the smallest case, but the one that started it all. That would be 38 Studios' original Chapter 7 bankruptcy filing down in Delaware, which is where the company was incorporated. That bankruptcy case is still pending. Ted Nesi, Eyewitness News.
Rhode Island continues to recoup money it lost in the failed 38 Studios deal.
It's a story that affects every Rhode Island taxpayer because the deal left taxpayers on the hook for almost $90 million.
And today, 2 banks settled lawsuits brought against them by former Governor Lincoln Chafee, raising the amount taxpayers have recovered to almost 40%.
Eyewitness News has live in-depth coverage of this story we've been tracking now for over 4 years. Target 12 investigator Tim White breaks down how much the legal battle has cost and who is reaping the benefits.
But first, Steph Machado is live in Providence with more details on today's settlements.
Curt Schilling is among the defendants who have not settled with the state over 38 Studios. But today, 2 defendants did settle. They agreed to hand over a chunk of the money taxpayers still owe. If approved, today's settlement means Wells Fargo and Barclays will give the state of Rhode Island nearly $26 million to drop the lawsuit against them. It's the third and largest settlement in the case so far, and in total, after legal fees, Rhode Island taxpayers have gotten nearly 40% of the money back that the state borrowed to lure Curt Schilling's video game company to Rhode Island. The state's been trying to recoup the money since 38 Studios went bankrupt in 2012.
I think that might be a stretch. I'm hoping that we can make a significant contribution towards that, but I don't want to mislead anybody to think that the state is going to recover every nickel.
Judge Francis Darrigan mediated the settlement and is actively trying to negotiate settlements with Curt Schilling and the other defendants. He hopes most of them settle within a week or two and says it's much preferable to a costly trial.
You just don't know what's going to happen. I think it would be not in anybody's best interest to go to trial. State can come back with nothing, or they could come back with a far higher number.
Governor Gina Raimondo says of the settlement, it's our job to be as aggressive as we can in recovering as much taxpayer money as possible, and today's settlement is another huge step towards that goal. And Judge Silverstein still has to approve the settlement. A hearing date has not yet been set. Reporting live with the Providence Mobile Newsroom, I'm Steph Machado, Eyewitness News.